What are some other examples that you've come across, if you have, similar to kind of like the progress bar, which, to me is very strange, but human nature, right, just wants to finish these like little progress bars. And because like something's very simple you can apply, to your product or your service that really makes people, do more micro commitments, have more kind of skin in the game, so to speak, and be more likely to actually use a tool or software.
Right. So this is called the endowed progress effect, and I give this exact example in my book, Hooked, around how LinkedIn uses it. When you put in that first bit of information, the progress bar goes from 0 to 60%, right? But then with each subsequent bit of information, it goes up maybe like another 20%, and then 10%, and then 5%, and then 2%. Like you never reach the end. This is called the endowed progress effect. That the more we put into something, the harder it is to stop. Right. That we endow things with progress just because we have put investment into them. We invested our time and effort. There's also what's called the IKEA effect, which is when we build something, we give it more value, oftentimes undue value, right? Like IKEA furniture is pretty crappy furniture, but because you made it yourself, look what I did, look what I built, look at this masterpiece. And it's hard, we take it from our dorm room to our first house, and even though we should probably, throw it away. So anytime you can get people to invest in the product, this is what I call the investment phase of the hook. It comes after the variable reward, which is where the user puts something into the product to make it better with use. And I can't emphasize how revolutionary this is. If you think about things in the physical world, right? Your furniture, your car, your clothing, all these things made of atoms rather than bits, they depreciate with wear and tear, right? They lose value the more we interact with them.
What's your opinion on gamification and like how simple do things need to be to form habits, right? Because like you can try all these complex things to like force a habit and like gamify, every aspect of your product, but there has to be some balance, right, between simplicity and between actually kind of gamifying things and actually getting people to form a habit. So where do you think that line is, and which do you lean toward?
So I'm not anti-gamification, but it is by far misapplied. And what do I mean by that? We have to consider what the internal trigger is. So gamification is wonderful when the internal trigger is boredom, right? So just to give everybody up to speed here, gamification is when we use gaming mechanics in non-gaming environments. So points, badges, leaderboards, things like that. And it's wonderful when the internal trigger is boredom. And so gamification is the reward, and therefore it entertains. But where I see it misapplied is where the internal trigger is not boredom. What if the internal trigger is workplace anxiety? I don't want your stupid badges. I don't care about your stupid leaderboard. Go to hell. Like, I need to do my work. Right? Get out of my way. I'm stressed and anxious about filling my deadline. This crap is bothersome and it's not helpful. So it's really about understanding your consumer's internal trigger. And if the internal trigger is boredom, hey, gamify away, right? Entertain them with these gamified tools. But if the internal trigger is seeking connection, loneliness, workplace anxiety, gamification is probably not the right answer.
Do these same principles apply to a variety of products, or are these mostly kind of attuned specifically to like social media and free products?
So the line of demarcation is not free or paid or enterprise or consumer. The line of demarcation is frequent or infrequent. So if you have the kind of product that is not frequently used, you do not need to form a habit. But you do need to have some kind of other competitive advantage, right? So Warren Buffett calls this a moat. So what could that be? It could be intellectual property. It could be economies of scale. You have to have some kind of competitive moat. Now, the problem with products that don't form a habit and don't have any kind of competitive moat is that you kill your competitors based on price and features, and they kill you doing the same. You just fight with each other to the death on price and features, and you make less and less and less money. But when you have a competitive moat, like a habit, now you have a competitive advantage. Like think about Google, right? The beauty of a habit is that the customer doesn't even consider the competition, right? How often do you think to yourself, I wonder who makes the best search engine? Let me give Bing a try. No, you just Google it. with little or no conscious thought. And Google owns 90% of the search engine, not because they have a monopoly in the marketplace. No, it's about monopoly of the mind. It's that we turn to these products with little or no conscious thought, purely out of habit. So habits can be a huge competitive advantage, but that only works if the product is used with sufficient frequency.
If you could go back in time and you could talk to 18-year-old Nir, but you only had enough time to tell him one thing, right, about life, about business, about happiness, fulfillment, what would you tell him?
This is a good question. I'd probably tell him to not take things so seriously. That, look, we're a tiny blue marble in a huge black vacuum floating around in space. Nobody's going to remember our names in 100 years. Right? Like, nobody's going to remember Einstein in 1,000 years. So enjoy your life, right? Like, don't take things quite so seriously. I think I have that tendency to maybe take things more seriously than I need to. And I think that's liberating. I'm not saying, like, I'm not a nihilist. I think, life, like, it is worth pursue. Obviously, that's why I write my books is I do want to make something significant and leave a contribution, but maybe to take things a little less seriously.